And now it's time for Focus. It's voting day, and before the ballots are even in, the Scottish National Party is being declared a victor, if only because it'll likely play a decisive role in post-election negotiations. 8 months after a failed independence referendum, Scottish voters carry more weight than ever before. France 24's Hervé Amérique and Lucy Fielder bring you this report from Glasgow's East End.
Plenty of time.
Scottish weightlifter Alex Richardson was ranked number 6 in the world. Now a veteran, he coaches some of Britain's most promising young athletes.
Yo!
Among them, his 15-year-old son, Daniel.
One lift away from British history. No under 15's ever done it.
The coach can be proud of his son. At this National Youth Championship held in Glasgow's East End, Daniel has broken the under-15 Scottish record with a lift of 103 kilos. For the Richardsons, weightlifting is more than a sport. It's a ray of hope in one of Britain's most deprived areas.
We're diverting and preventing kids ever being involved in antisocial behaviour or crime. So it's important that the community also shows that it's got a young, vibrant society that are capable of being top-class sports people across Europe.
Easterhouse in Glasgow. You are more likely to be stabbed here than anywhere else in the UK. For men, the average life expectancy is just 54. But for the first time in decades, Scotland's poor feel their voice counts in a general election.
In places like Easterhouse, people who haven't voted in 20 or 30 years are saying they're coming out to vote, and generally those people are voting SNP. They're not voting Labour. They don't see their future with Labour.
In Scotland, Labour's opponents are now the Scottish National Party rather than the Conservatives. They're young, energetic, driven by the lingering taste of the adrenaline they experienced in last September's referendum. Natalie McGarry is a 33-year-old candidate with a fighting chance.
What people are telling us is the referendum opened up their eyes to the fact that the Labour Party in opposition have been limp and ineffective. They have voted with the Tories on austerity, and people are suffering from austerity and cuts as a result of the recession.
The SNP have been challenging Labour activists, seen here in red, on their home ground. But Margaret Curran, who sits on the front bench in the House of Commons, and her predecessors have dominated politics here for 6 decades.
I don't deny the polls are challenging, but when I think we get down to the fundamental issues about how can we improve people's lives, what are the policies for the future, then I think policy by policy, Labour wins out.
On the campaign trail, Margaret Curran drops into the weightlifting competition with fellow Labour MP Paul Martin. Voluntary sector leaders complain to them about funding cuts, but they point out that the devolved Scottish Government is controlled by the SNP.
The City of Glasgow has the lowest funding from the Scottish Government across Scotland. So I would say to community groups here, you must stand up to the Scottish Government because we're not getting a fair deal from them, and I think that's what really matters to people here.
Many ordinary voters, though, have already made up their minds.
I was always brought up to believe to vote for Labour, from which I have done for a very long time. But this time I'm not. I'm actually going to vote SNP because I think they're offering a lot more for Scotland. I think they're more for Scotland. Labour have just pulled the wool over our eyes over the years.
These young athletes could be Britain's future Olympic stars. They could also see an independent Scotland in their lifetimes.
I want independence myself. I believe that Scotland will still want to be a part of the UK. I could see myself in 10 years' time, good job, doing well in weightlifting, and we'd still be a part of the United Kingdom.
It's important that the young people that we see here, who are community leaders, they are national ambassadors for Scotland and Great Britain, that their generation is allowed to express their voice and not be kept down by small-minded politics.
The election results will be critical, not just for Scotland, but for the future of Britain.
This election, Scotland is the centre. Scotland is the deciding factor about whether Labour return as a minority, probably, or the Tories.
Whoever wins the election, from now on, Scotland will punch above its weight.